as I said, early 70s, there was a big, this big feminist, first wave feminist. And then feminism in the 80s became like a really dirty word. It was like the F word. You don't want to say, you would never say you were a feminist in the 80s and 90s, because it was like,
feminists were the people that camped out at Green
Common. Yeah, they were dirty hippies.
Yeah, they were so
wear bras, and it was kind of strange. And
so your experience was different to mine.
Yeah, definitely. And I was working in a very corporate environment,
So because we're really keen to share information about women's activism, we've been going all over the north. We've been to pubs, we've been to museums, we've been to art galleries, we've been to miners' halls, we've been all over the place sharing information about what women have done and inviting people to come and tell us about their experiences. So it started really in 2015, 2016, and it began with a conversation with my father, actually. And I'm from a small mining village in South Yorkshire, and the mines aren't there any longer because they were really dismantled after the miners' strike in the 1980s. And women were really central to the miners' strike. So the Women Against Pit Closures movement were the wives of men who worked down the pits, and they went on strike to try and protect the pits and their families. And the women were central really to that campaign. They ran soup kitchens, they supported one another's children, they organised Christmas gifts under really difficult circumstances with no money. And I asked my dad, and my father and my family on my father's side they'd all worked in the mines. And I asked him, is there anybody in the village left who can tell me what the women did during the miners' strike? And we thought for a while and realised actually there wasn't anybody. They died, they'd moved away, we'd lost touch. And that for me felt really wrong, because these women had done really amazing things in the face of significant adversity. And we were going to lose that. We were literally going to lose that bit of our social history. And so I really needed to do something about that. So for me personally, that was the background. And it was also to shed a light on women who are often overlooked in the history of activism and protest. Women who are just acting in everyday ways to try and make their communities better, to make conditions more comfortable for those they care about, and to try and bring about positive change. And very often we don't hear those stories. So it was really important, also from a regional point of view, to focus on the north, because many stories about, for example, the women's liberation movement or large women's movements are focused quite a lot around the capital, around London. And so those stories from the regions, which have their own character because of the industrial nature of the work that took place in the north, because of the particular character of those in the north, was going to be lost. So for those reasons, both personal and because I felt like as a society we should be collecting and recognising these stories and these women, we started the project. So Remembering Resistance is focused on the last 100 years of women's activism in the north of England. So we have been looking across the last century to understand how women have tried to resist power and the sorts of campaigns they've been interested in and the sorts of tactics and strategies and places that they've protested. So really our aim is to capture that history, to interpret it, and then to share it with people so that we can let as many people know as possible about all the women that have been really trying to fight for positive social change in the north over the last 100 years. And importantly, working with an amazing team. So Chris Boyko, Claire Selby, all the volunteers, all of our wonderful students and interns have brought the project to life, and we've made so many wonderful connections with different organisations. We've collaborated with the People's History Museum in Manchester, Sheffield Museums, the Durham Women Miners, Banners Group, a whole range of different organisations, and it's been incredibly rich and rewarding as a consequence. So we've been working more recently with Global Link, who are a development education charity based in Lancaster, and they have two arms to their work. One is arts and heritage, and they run a project called Documenting Dissent, which actually has some very similar aims to Remembering Resistance. They're focused more particularly on Lancaster, so they look at different sorts of activism that have taken place over really centuries in Lancaster, and collecting stories and sharing that information. And the other part of the work that Global Link do is to work with asylum seekers and refugees. So Lancaster's a beacon city, and a place where particularly Syrians displaced as a consequence of the conflict have been invited to settle, and Global Link are one of the main service providers. They support them. So what we've been doing is working with Global Link to bring together those different areas of work. So we've been working with volunteers again, and our wonderful interns from the Richardson Institute, to understand the power of these stories, to enable people to feel more comfortable and confident about how British politics works, and also about how to get involved in community and civic life. I would invite anybody to come and have a look at the website and see what we've been doing, because all the information that we've collected is freely available, so all the oral histories are free for anybody who wants to use them. All of the protest data that we've got around where women have protested is free for people to engage with, and for just people to ask the question to their neighbours, to their family members, their mums and sisters and grands, what did you do? Is there anything that you'd like to share? Because that's how we develop a collective memory for women's activism. So I think first of all, learn about what women have done, women you know, women you don't know, and then ask yourself, am I happy with everything that I see in a woman? If not, then perhaps think about how you might want to change.